Now we will talk about how to find slope algebraically from 2 points. When you're given 2 points, you find the slope using the following formula. M, which represents slope, equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. This is a very important formula. Write it down, put it somewhere safe, tape it to the wall. It is extremely important that you know this formula. When looking at this formula, the subscripts, those are the small numbers beside the letters, they represent which point the value is coming from. The subscript 1 means that that comes from the first point. So y1 would mean the y value in the first point given. The 2 represents the second point. So x2 means the x value from the second point given. So here's an example. Find the slope between the 2 points, -2, 5, and 8, 3. So first, remember that really important formula. It's written here for you. I would suggest always labeling your points. So in this case, -2 is x1, 5 is y1 because that's the x and y from the first point. 8 is x2, 3 is y2 because that's the x and y from the second point. Remember, in a point, it's alphabetical. X comes first and then y. Now what you want to do is fill in the formula with those correct values. So y2 is first, that's my 3. Minus comes from the formula, and then y1 is 5. Then 8 is x2, minus from the formula, and x1 was -2. So I fill in all the values of my formula. Note, the minus signs are always there because that is part of the formula. Then we simplify the top and the bottom. You can type that into your calculator, or if you just know the values, I would suggest using your calculator just to make sure you don't make any small mistakes. So 3 minus 5 gives me -2. 8 minus -2 gives me a positive 10. Therefore, my slope is -2 over 10. But you do always reduce your fraction if it's necessary. In this case, it is. -2 over 10 does reduce to -1 over 5. So my final answer is the slope is -1/5. Let's look at another example. Find the slope between these 2 points, 3, 4, and -2, -1. Again, our extra special formula, make sure you always keep rewriting it so that you memorize it. And label your points. So 3 is x1, 4 is y1, that's the first point. -2 is x2, -1 is y2 because that's the second point. Then fill in the formula with the correct values. So -1 minus 4 and -2 minus 3. Simplify the top and the bottom of the fraction. -1 minus 4 is -5. -2 minus 3 is -5 also. And then remember to reduce the fraction if needed. -5 divided by -5 does reduce, and that leaves you with your final answer of 1, because -5 divided by -5 reduces to 1. My slope is 1. Here's another example. Find the slope between these 2 points, -2, 5, and 3, 5. Again, your handy-dandy formula, make sure you always rewrite it just to memorize it. And label your points. So -2 is x1, 5 is y1, 3 is x2, 5 is y2. Then fill in the formula with the correct values. So 5 minus 5 divided by 3 minus -2. Once you've filled in all the values, simplify the top and bottom of the fraction. 5 minus 5 is actually 0. 3 minus -2 is 5. 0 divided by 5 is 0. So when I reduce that, I get 0. And that is a special case, as we talked about earlier. When the slope is 0, that means these 2 points fall on a horizontal line. Another example, find the slope between these 2 points, -1, 6, and -1, 12. Again, your formula, that's really important that you write it down and label your points. Now fill in the formula with the correct values. So 12, which is y2, minus 6, which is y1, divided by -1, which is x2, minus -1, which is x1. After we fill in our correct values, we simplify the top and the bottom. 12 minus 6 is 6, and -1 minus -1 is 0. Now this is a case of something I cannot actually do mathematically. 6 divided by 0 is not allowed in math. You cannot put 6 things into 0 groups. That's what dividing means. Divide this into this many groups. 6 divided by 0 doesn't make any sense, because if I have 6 things, there's no way I can have 0 groups. I will always have at least one group. So this is the special case where the slope is undefined. So when you are dividing by 0, 0 is in the denominator, that's when you get undefined slope. So it's very important that you do a few things. Rewrite the formula every time you have a problem. Label the points given as x1, y1, x2, y2, so that you make sure you substitute them into the formula in the correct spot. When you're doing your formula, make sure you realize that the minus sign should be there every time, because that is part of the formula. And if you remember, slope is rise over run. Well, the y value tells you how far up or down the point goes, the rise. The x tells you how far left or right, the run. So that's why it's in that order. Y is on top, x on bottom. And then take your time reducing. Use your calculator if you need to. Always reduce the numerator and denominator first. Get them down to one number each, and then divide. If you follow these steps, then finding the slope from 2 points will become easier and easier as you practice. So a little slope recap of everything we've done so far. Remember, from a graph, you're counting rise over run. You always want to choose points that are whole numbers that go through a corner. And in this case, it's going up 3, so positive 3, right 5, so positive 5. So the slope would be 3 over 5. From 2 points, write down that formula. I'm saying it again here. It's very, very important. Rewrite that formula, post it on your wall, remember it. It's an important formula to know. And you just plug in all the values in the correct spot, and reduce the fractions. Again, simplify the top, the numerator, and the bottom, the denominator, first down to one number, and then reduce that fraction if needed. That is all for finding slope from a graph and algebraically between 2 points.